This is the SEC Championship preview. Thanks for tuning in. We got a lot to cover today. First, let's take a look at the college football new rankings that just came out Tuesday night. As you can see, Alabama clearly the number one team in the country. Notre Dame follows shortly behind at number 2, followed by Clemson, Ohio State, Texas A&M still on the outside looking in with only that one loss to Alabama. Iowa State is now in the picture as the first two-loss team in the rankings. And surprisingly, to everybody's surprise, really, Florida only falls one spot after that embarrassing loss to LSU. Now, that kind of keeps Florida in the picture. Now, everybody, including myself, following that game, was pretty confident that Florida was out of the mix. That is not the case. However, the committee did debate Georgia ahead of Florida, but they stuck with what they have been showing all year long, and that is the head-to-head matters. So Florida is still above Georgia, and that gives Florida some hope. Us Florida fans now can hope for some help around the league in these conference title games, and maybe Florida sneaks into the playoff, but we got to take care of business first versus Alabama, and that's not going to be an easy task. So let's take a look at some of these conference championship games. We'll start it out in the Big Ten, where number 14 Northwestern takes on Ohio State. And so we got to be big Northwestern fans this weekend. If you're a Florida fan, I don't expect Northwestern to really compete in this game, but you never know. That's why we play the games. And then in the Big 12, we got Oklahoma versus Iowa State. I'm not as worried about this game because if Florida can knock off Alabama, that will take care of itself. We should jump Ohio State. Whether we make it into the college football playoffs or not, we should still be ranked over Ohio State, even if Iowa State, even if Iowa State beats Oklahoma, I think we would jump them because nobody in the country has a quality win like beating Alabama. And on in the ACC conference, this one is huge. There's multiple scenarios here. This could take care of itself for Florida. If Clemson beats Notre Dame and beats them handily, that knocks Notre Dame out of the picture. However, if Clemson barely beats Notre Dame, maybe by 10 or less points, then you're more than likely looking at 2 ACC teams in the playoff. But if you're a Gator fan, you got to be rooting for Notre Dame, don't you? I mean, at least I am. If Notre Dame beats Clemson for the second straight time, Clemson should be no doubtedly out of the playoff, opening up one spot. But the biggest game in reality for Florida fans is that Texas A&M and Tennessee game. Tennessee has to win to get A&M out of the picture for Florida. Even with a Florida win, I don't see Florida making the playoffs if A&M is still at the number 5 spot. That's there. You just can't. I know you want to put the conference champion in, but you got a one-loss team in A&M who his only loss is to Alabama. Really, it was a blowout. But this all should be very interesting to see how it shakes out. In other action, interesting game here, the Sun Belt. Number 19, Louisiana at number 12, Coastal Carolina. That game doesn't really have any implications on the playoff, you wouldn't think, but still nonetheless a good game to watch. Quickly looking at the common opponent comparison, Florida versus Arkansas and Alabama against Arkansas. Franks threw for much more yards against Florida than he did Alabama, but he did have a chip on his shoulder coming into that game. LSU, obviously, Alabama played much better against LSU than Florida. Now, Kentucky, however, we allowed a lot less yards to Wilson than Alabama did, so that is a positive, and that was a very similar outcome there. Now against Tennessee, also very similar outcome. Florida won 31-19, Alabama 48-17. So very similar. Also similar against Georgia, both quarterbacks threw for 4 touchdowns against the Georgia defense. And Ole Miss, actually a little better performance by Florida against Ole Miss than Alabama did. Alabama allowed a lot more points in that game. They are showing they're human there. Obviously, Texas A&M, Florida did not fare as well in. It was a close game, however. And against Missouri, also a very similar outcome. 38-19 by Alabama, 41-17 by Florida. So there you have it. So as you see, in 5 of those games, Florida fared better or similar to Alabama against those common opponents. And in the other 3, it wasn't even close. Alabama clearly played well, and Florida did not quite live up to the standard, as Dan Mullen likes to say. I'm not going to stick too much with stats on this. That's kind of boring. A lot of you don't like to sit here and watch me go over stats, I have noticed. However, I will put this up on the screen. Defensively, Florida ranks 5th in the conference. Alabama, to nobody's surprise, is at number 1. So the question of this game is how does Florida's defense match up with that explosive offense of Alabama? And can we slow it down just enough to give Kyle Trask and company a chance in this game? Now, I don't see us really running the ball too well against Alabama, so look for Dan Mullen to go to those halfback and wide receiver screens, sort of as an extension to the run game, if you will, as he likes to do. We got to get some of those short yardage and run type plays going for Florida's offense to run. As you see last week, Alabama's going to notice that LSU just put 4 in the box and dared us to run. We really didn't take advantage of that. We still threw the entire game, and we're not going to be able to do that against Alabama if they want to sit there and try to just shut out our pass game. We're going to need to get some run yardage just to keep them honest. In news, Jalen Waddle might play this week, so that's huge for Alabama. They want to assure that they're going to be able to match our points for point. And also, we should be getting Sean Davis back in the secondary. However, Trey Dean has been getting reps, and expect to see him play a lot of minutes as well. This should be an interesting game. I think we could keep it close. I think Florida could be closer than people think. Let's see what Rex thinks in Rex Pick of the Week. Wow, every time, huh, bud? That's interesting. Hope you're not wrong. Oh.
You vote for the middle one first, though.
Yeah. Was it going to be a tie? So we're starting to see a trend with Rex. He seems to pick Florida just every week. At least that's how it seems. Although he did pick up that Alabama card at the end and he flipped it over. So make of it what you will there. But I tend to think the other direction in this one. However, like I just said, I think it's going to depend on how we play Alabama. We're going to have to do something different. Florida's defense is very similar to Auburn's and their coverages and how we like to give cushion, and too much cushion at times, in which Alabama exposed them. Last week, they started out slow. Auburn did a good job, and then Alabama caught up quickly after they realized what they were doing. Like I said, it's very similar to how Florida does their defense. So look for Alabama to run a lot of wide receiver screens, especially on third down where we like to have our nickel 10 yards off the ball for whatever the reason. So we're going to have to do something different to slow down this passing attack. And also, I've noticed after watching film that Mac Jones tends to only have a couple of reads. He likes to look for that deep ball first, and if it's not there, he checks down to the running back or his tight end check down over the middle or on the flats. So if Florida can come up with something good to pretty much stop their plan, their week-to-week plan that they've done all week long, or all year long, should I say, I've got Alabama 41, Florida 36 in a pretty good game. We'll see how it shakes out. I'll see you at the post game, and go Gators. Good luck. If you liked today's video, please remember to hit the like button down below, share, and subscribe for all the latest Gator news all year long. From recruiting to matchup previews, post-game highlights, and much more.